The courtroom fell into a heavy silence as Judge Thembeka Ndlovu delivered a verdict that sent shockwaves through South Africa's political and legal circles. Julius Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, was found guilty in a high-profile hate speech case that has gripped the nation for months. The ruling, hailed by some as a critical step toward protecting South Africa's fragile social cohesion, has sparked fierce debates about freedom of expression, political rhetoric, and the limits of democratic tolerance. The case revolved around statements Malema made at a political rally earlier this year, comments that prosecutors argued crossed the line between legitimate political discourse and incitement. In their judgment, the court ruled that the language was not merely provocative but amounted to hate speech under the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, PEPUDA. Legal experts described the conviction as a landmark decision in South Africa's post-apartheid jurisprudence. Professor Thandi Makona, a constitutional law scholar at the University of the Witwatersrand, emphasized the symbolic weight of the ruling. This judgment makes it clear that the constitutional right to freedom of expression is not absolute, she explained. South Africa's democracy is built on both rights and responsibilities. Political leaders, in particular, carry a higher duty not to exploit rhetoric in ways that incite division or violence. According to Makona, the court's decision sends a message that the judiciary will not hesitate to hold powerful figures accountable, no matter how influential they may be. One of the central issues in the case was the delicate balance between protecting free political expression and preventing speech that undermines democratic values. Malema's defense team argued vigorously that his words should be understood in the context of South Africa's vibrant and often combative political culture. They claimed that the prosecution's interpretation was overly narrow and risked criminalizing robust debate. However, the court rejected that argument, finding that the statements carried a clear and dangerous undertone. Advocate Sipho Dlamini, a Johannesburg-based human rights lawyer, noted that this aspect of the judgment may shape future political discourse. The court is effectively drawing a new line in the sand, Dlamini said. Leaders will have to be far more careful in the language they use. While criticism of government and institutions is fair game, speech that veers into incitement, dehumanization, or the targeting of specific groups will no longer be tolerated. Civil society organizations have been quick to react. The South African Human Rights Commission, SAHRC, which had been monitoring the case closely, welcomed the conviction as a victory for social justice. In a statement, the Commission said the ruling reinforces South Africa's commitment to combating discrimination and hate-based violence. On the other hand, some critics have expressed concern that the verdict could be seen as a tool to silence political opposition. The Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, CASAC, cautioned against interpreting the judgment too broadly, warning that it could set a precedent for misuse. "We celebrate accountability," CASAC noted, "but we must remain vigilant to ensure that this ruling does not inadvertently curtail legitimate political expression, particularly from marginalized voices." For Malema, the conviction could have significant political consequences. Depending on the sentence, he may face fines, restrictions on his public activities, or even disqualification from holding certain public offices. Political analysts suggest that this moment could either weaken the EFF's momentum or galvanize its supporters, who may view Malema as a victim of political persecution. Dr. Lerato Kumalo, a political scientist at Stellenbosch University, observed, "The EFF thrives on confrontation and the image of being persecuted by the establishment. This conviction, paradoxically, might give Malema the fuel he needs to further rally his base. The real test will be whether the broader electorate views him as a reckless demagogue or as a champion silenced by an overly cautious legal system." Beyond Malema's personal fate, the case sets the stage for a broader reckoning with how South Africa navigates its democratic values. Freedom of expression is enshrined in the Constitution, but so too is the right to dignity and equality. The court's ruling underscores the tension between these rights, a tension that legal experts say will continue to shape South Africa's evolving democracy. Professor McConnor believes this case will likely be cited in future litigation involving speech, particularly in the age of social media. We live in an era where a single statement can be amplified instantly to millions of people, she said. Courts are now grappling with the reality that irresponsible rhetoric has real-world consequences, from community unrest to violent clashes. This judgment recognizes that reality. The conviction of Julius Malema in the hate speech case represents more than a legal milestone, it marks a critical moment in South Africa's democratic journey. While some celebrate it as a victory for accountability and equality, others worry about its potential chilling effect on political expression. What is clear, however, is that the ruling will resonate far beyond Malema himself. It is a reminder that words carry weight, that leadership demands responsibility, and that South Africa's democracy, still young, still fragile, depends on careful stewardship of both freedom and justice.